Hi, I'm Dan, and if you're new to homebrewing, so am I. Welcome to my adventures in homebrewing. Hey everybody, it's Dan. It's that time once more to go around the world one more time and have a beer or two along the way. Thanks a lot for coming out this week and joining me. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode with me talking about the possibility of building a new brewery inside of my garage that I'll be going to in my new house that I'll be hopefully someday soon once this place sells. So we're gonna hold on to that really send good vibes, because I need my house to sell so I can move into my new one so I can build this thing. So yeah, so we had a lot of cool stuff, and to everybody who's been leaving pictures of your setups of your home breweries and things like that on Facebook and also on Instagram, who are following me, guys, thanks a lot. I greatly appreciate it. Excuse me. And you've given me more than enough ideas to torture my wife with, so thank you so much, guys. And also to the gentleman, Bill, I'll be reaching out to you soon enough to possibly have you on the show. So this week I'm returning the favor, or not a favor, but I'm being blessed with his presence. I've got Andrew. I got Andrew Saunders on the line with us today. And we're going to be talking about his podcast, the Homebrew Pub, and also what he's got going on as a home brewer and things like that. So stay tuned, hang around, and we'll be right back after we hear from the sponsors of Escarpment Lab. Hey, it's Dan here one more time, and I'm happy to say that we are now, or should I say my podcast is now sponsored by Escarpment Laboratories. Yeast production for the fermentation of the exceptional craft beer. Whether your kit is on the stovetop or in a commercial brew house, wholesale yeast and quality control for the profitable pro brewer, community engagement and education for the discerning home brewery. If you are a craft brewer and you love using quality yeast, then you really do need to check out Escarpment Laboratories. Dan here one more time to say thank you to the great people over at Brewer's Friend for the fantastic offer they have just given us. For all the new users of Brewer's Friend, for their first year, you're going to receive 15% off. That's 50% savings on this great piece of software. And what is Brewer's Friend? Well, Brewer's Friend is a complete recipe designer, brew day planner, and journal. The details make the difference between an average batch of homebrew and a truly excellent brew that is repeatable. Brewer's Friend automates the details, guides you through the brewing process, and saves all the data. And how do you get all this fun stuff? Well, once you go in and you sign in and you go to sign up for Brewer's Friend, and to get that 15% savings, you need to use the promo code podcast. That's all you got to do. When you sign up, type in podcast for the promo code and you will get 15% off. Again, thank you to the great people at Brewer's Friend for this, and I'll see you on the other side.
The BrewTubers online store has everything you need for your brewing apparel and gift idea needs, with a growing selection of colors and sizes for hoodies, t-shirts, and caps. Stickers and magnets? Got 'em. Can holders and coffee mugs? We've got those too. Be the boss of your neighborhood and the envy of brewers everywhere when you flash that beautiful BrewTubers logo at your next local brewing competition. Want everyone to know you're a part of the Brew World Order? Strike a Superman pose with that BWO logo on your chest and make them all take notice. And if you haven't already, get over to our website at www.brewtubers.com and become a member. Then, just mosey yourself over to that BrewTuber store tab, click on it, and open the door to show the world you are a proud BrewTuber. Brew, record, post, repeat.
And we're back. So so this week we're going to be talking with Andrew from the Homebrew Pub podcast. I'm having one of those brain fart moments, man. I'm sorry. Okay. So about a week ago, I was on Andrew's show, and we hit it off. We're having a great time talking beers and things like that. So this week it's his turn to be on my podcast and talk beer and podcast and whatnot. So Andrew, thanks a lot for being on the show, brother.
Thank you. And again, thank you for visiting the pub last week.
Oh, I had a great time, man. I had an absolute blast.
it was awesome. And that episode, I don't know when you're planning on releasing this episode, but on the date we're recording, you are next in line.
Nice. I like that. So this will probably be out before my episode on Andrew's show. So after you guys hear this, go to his, listen to what we talk about, then come back, listen to our show again, and you'll kind of get up to speed of what's going on. So it's a story of my life. I'm all over the place. So yeah, so as you guys can probably tell, Andrew is an import to North America. It's a nice way of saying it.
It's a very. I actually make a beer called an Essex import. I'm from the county of Essex in the UK, and I feel like that was a fun name for a British ale that I make.
Nice. So, how did you get into homebrewing? It isn't a big thing in the UK.
So I didn't get into beer until I moved to Colorado. So like everyone else growing up, would go to the pub. At that point in life, drinking the mass-produced European lagers, and that was pub culture. And then moving to Colorado, I moved to Colorado in 2008, so just as the craft beer movement was really exploding. And that's what got me into like beer flavors I'd never had before, with, all the American IPAs and the crazy hops and the no boundaries on what flavors you're going to do. But how I got into homebrewing was I used to work in TV, and it was a 24/7 gig. And then I left TV and got a regular job. And on my second weekend, I went, I'm really bored. And I was in the mall with my wife, and we went into Williams-Sonoma, and they had a 1 gallon beer brewing kit for like $25 on sale. I'm like, all right, Brooklyn Brew Shop, let's do this. If it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it'll be a fun experiment. And, rose tinted glasses, it was the best tasting beer I'd ever had. I'm not sure I would agree with that assessment now. But, I started...
that's par for the course, man.
When it really is, though, isn't it?
Come on.
Yeah. And so, just started doing small 1 gallons, and then got up to 5 gallon extract, and it just quickly became an obsession. And when I spilled over on the stove that we had, I was being given a burner and moved outside.
So you're saying you were banished to the garage?
I'm not even the garage. I was banished to our backyard. Like, we couldn't fit so I brew outside. I have an electric system, and my special 220 volt plug is outside on the patio. Like, that's where I brew.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
Your wife doesn't like you.
It's more access to water in an old house. That's 42. Right. So yeah.
So yeah, like you were saying, it's kind of weird. You do that first brew and you think, oh, this is the end all be all. And as you start getting more and more and more into it, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? I mean, I admit, when I got into it, and I've told this story more than once on the show, is that when I start getting into homebrewing, my wife went and bought me my first beginner's kit, like with the bucket, the paddle, the Cooper's liquid malt extract, so that the kit, everything comes in the can. All you gotta do is add water. So, and I did that. I followed the directions the best I could. I boiled it. I swamp cooled it. So basically, swamp cooling is you put it in your sink, then you cold water and ice all the way around it to try and bring the temperature down as fast as you can and as gently as you can, if you can. And then from there, it was just, you add the yeast, and I didn't have a lid or an airlock for it. So I'm like, what's the harm? Got out the old saran wrap over the top, bungee cords around it.
Oh God.
And I'm like, perfect. Nothing's gonna get out of this. And I think I told you that I had my son at the time, who was like just learning to walk, fingers getting into it through the plastic, my dog poking his face in through the plastic. Then I was like, why is it growing mushrooms? So it was like, all right, we're not gonna drink that, and down it went. Tried it
Yeah.
again, and I was like, yeah, okay, it's drinkable. Gave some to friends, and they're like, oh my god, get rid of this now. I'm like, okay. So that's how I started. I mean,
Yeah.
are you doing like all grain now, or are you still doing like?
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say, yeah, no, I so been brewing for about 10 years, so I will occasionally use extract to bump up the gravity of a beer.
Mhm.
But generally I just do all grain. And been doing that for probably I got into all grain about 2 years into brewing. It scared
Yeah.
me for a long time because it was like, oh, just with the syrups and the kits, I can't go wrong. And I mean, you can.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, it's going to all grain, and I think there's absolutely room for extract, and that's a great way to like get a quick brew day out, and you can make fantastic beers with it. But there's something about, for me, doing all grain, just you feel like you have a bit more control, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find with all grain, there's a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
So if you're low on one, you can adjust with something else. I mean, yeah, you'll adjust other color, flavor, or maybe alcohol content. That's fine, because you're taking notes to know what you did, so you can keep track of everything. So like if it turns out great, you can reproduce it.
Yeah.
And if it's not, well, you know what not to do. But you can't do that with LME, because once it's there, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. You just gotta add the water, boil the crap out of it, and then hope to God it works.
Yeah. But I mean, that presents its own challenges as well, because I think there's a lot of people who think LME and DME have a certain taste to it. And so then what do you do to your beers to try and not mask it, but at least have it playing in a set of flavors?
Hammer it with hops.
Yes. Hammer of hops and adjuncts. I am a big adjunct guy.
Oh no.
Reinheit's kebab be damned.
Well, I tend to go along that philosophy as well, because when we heard on your show with some of the crazy things I've got going.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't add in like rice or corn. Only time I add rice or corn is if it's a corn would be if I'm doing a Mexican cerveza or Mexican lager. That's it. That's the only time I add any of that stuff. Other than that, it's, if I'm saying it's say like a cucumber wheat beer, it's a proper wheat beer, but I'll put real cucumber in it and ferment it out. And that's me though. I mean, I always feel that at least some of the more popular craft breweries now, as they get more popular and things like that, they tend to think, okay, this beer is really popular. What can we do to get it reproduced quickly, similar, with less effort? And that's when they start throwing in the adjuncts and things like that. And sometimes it works, and other times just like, what did you do to the beer? It's crap now.
Yeah. Well, and it's, so I mean, when I'm talking adjuncts, I mean, I'm not talking necessarily throwing like the syrups in there. It is the cucumber. I mean, I wouldn't do cucumbers because I don't eat them, but it is like the cucumbers, the teas and everything.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, because I forget what the brewery was, but they made those like fruit beers that they then had to like put out into the world, be like, yeah, get them close to freezing, or don't open them because they'll explode. And I've made fruit beers with real fruit, and not a great thing to do. I learned the hard way when bottle conditioning. Yeah, it's all about learning. But and you can do it. I mean, I had some successes doing it, but then there are other times where they weren't bottle bombs, but they were so carbonated.
Yeah.
Like even Coca-Cola was going settle down now.
Wow.
And you couldn't really taste anything because all you got were the bubbles on your tongue.
So were you using priming sugar, or are you doing so much table sugar per bottle?
I was probably, back then, I think I was using priming sugar. It was either that or DME.
Okay. Because I mean, I will admit there are some beers that I still bottle condition. Like I have a cherry lambic that I
Yeah.
bottle condition, but I use the Cooper's carb drops,
Mm,
and I've never had a bottle bomb with those. And the
yeah.
beers turn out perfectly carbonated each time.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a big learning curve for me because I know when I first started doing it, uh, I wasn't using priming sugar. I was using straight up table sugar,
Yeah.
like a teaspoon per bottle. So here I am with a measuring spoon going, okay, wait a minute, you didn't go in all the way. Sweep that little bit in there, and
Yeah.
then I mean, come on. I mean, I admit I had bottle bombs where some like you, as soon as you open the top, it hit the ceiling,
Yeah.
or I rolled the dice on this, and I actually bottle conditioned inside of a growler.
Ooh.
I rolled
I
the dice.
have done that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I rolled the dice. So as I was doing this, I put them inside. I put I had 2 or 3 growlers. I put them inside of a bucket. Then I put the lid on. Then I put a those like enamel black canning pots you can get.
Yeah.
So I filled that with water, set that on top of the lid.
Yeah.
Should anything go boom, it was contained.
I was gonna say, did it go boom?
No, it didn't.
Oh, nice.
It didn't. I think it's because I left enough headspace
Yeah.
that I had somewhere to go. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, it worked out. I mean, I was impressed.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think my growlers turn into bombs. I made a really strong stout. It was like a 9% stout, and I should have used a calculator. You can get wonderful like priming sugar calculators online. But in the end, I would just stand out of my driveway and crack a bottle and like just watch the fountain display. Like, and I'd be like drinking something else. My wife would be like, "Are you coming in anytime?" Like, nah, I've got 3 more, babes. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just having displays. So...
it's funny how like in the moment right now we can laugh about it.
Oh, but at the time.
But at the time you're like, son of a, either you're extremely angry or you're like extremely sad. And you're like,
yeah,
what the hell? You know?
Yeah.
But I think it's part of the journey, I think.
It is. And I mean, like one of the worst brew day moments, and I think I mentioned this in when we spoke last time, but one of the worst brew day moments I ever had was it was right at the beginning of quarantine. And so I was going to make 2 batches of beer. That was going to be my quarantine beer. This was in the good old days when we thought it'd be like a month and everything would be good. Oh, those innocent times. And both beers got infected.
Oh.
And I know exactly what the infection was. It was chloramine in the water, I think it was. So that's when I learned about using Camden tablets. And it was just one of those heartbreaking moments. And I mean, granted, we all thought the world was ending and, you know, all heightened emotions. But that was like, I've had infections before, but to have 2 with the exact same infection, like I'm calling up the Brew Hut, which is my local brew shop, and the guys there are very sweet and understanding and like, okay, what's it taste like? Well, it tastes like this. Like, oh, it's this. It's like, okay, you're that good that you can identify it. And since using the Camden tablets, I've never had that off flavor since.
Yeah, Camden tablets, I always use them regardless of whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, what was this? Before I decided to sell the house, I had got a brand new Spike 14-gallon fermenter.
Yeah. Nice.
And I put about 12 and a half, 13 gallons worth of Schwarzbier into it.
Yeah.
Cooling coil, everything. I had the blow off tube going into a bucket of sanitizers that was full to the top. Right. I'm like, okay, great. I'm letting it do its thing, coming back, checking the tilt, hydrometer, everything else. Come back one day and I looked, I'm like, why is the Sandy bucket empty?
Suck back?
No, it wasn't suckback. Someone banged it and didn't tell me.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was
Because you can handle suck back. It's the
yeah,
oxygen that'll kill you.
exactly. I mean, I didn't care if it got sucked back because I've had it happen before and it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But all that oxygen got, I'm like, oh, let's roll the dice and see what happened. So I moved it over into the bright tank. I'm like, okay, it's looking okay. So okay so far. Put it into 2 different kegs, put one on tap, let it sit, whatever else. I first pour it, like, oh, it looks a little chunky, not a big deal. Dump it out. That happens. You can have sludge in the bottom. So it's a given. Kept pouring. I was like, this has got to stop sooner or later. Keep pouring. And I was like, I just poured the whole keg.
Oh God.
And I'm like, if this is the case for this, it's going to be the exact same thing for that one over there. So there was like almost 14 gallons worth of Schwarzbier dumped down the drain.
Oh.
I was like, oh. So now it's like, note to self, once I get into the new place, I'm getting a proper blow off cane, dedicated buckets to make sure they're constantly filled, and no one touches my stuff.
Fair enough. That is a good rule.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have kids?
No.
Okay, you're I love my kids, but you're lucky.
They are not on the horizon.
There you go. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love my kids. My boy is a very smart lad. He's going into his last year of university. My daughter's going into her first year of university. So we got one out of the house. I'm just trying to get the other one out. And I'm sorry. Did I get a little aggressive with that? I'm sorry. I was trying to gently push her out.
Encourage.
Go see the world.
Yes.
And yeah.
You have wings.
Fly. So, it's one of those things where, because I had to bring everything in from outside, because when it gets into like sub-zero temperatures here, regardless whether or not something is able to be out in the cold, that cold, it'll break.
Yeah.
And I have this great glycol chiller, and I'm not willing to risk it getting
no
broken,
especially with knowing how much those things cost.
This one was enough, because it's a 4-vessel system. Everything's internalized. So basically, Brewbuilt has is the Ice Master or Ice Max 4, where all the pumps, everything are all internalized into the unit. So you don't have to buy anything else with it.
Wow.
And each tank is individually controlled by a controller that's on this thing.
Yeah.
So it's like I can run one vessel, or I can run all 4 independently at different temperatures, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is come in handy. so yeah. So it's one of those things where now it's just like, I want to get my own space again, get everything out of the basement. I want to get brewing again. And it's a bit of a pain. But enough rambling. Let's talk about your show. How did you come up with the idea for the Homebrew Pub?
Yeah. So I have run. So this is like my second homebrewing podcast. Me and my homebrewing buddy Tyler, we used to run. I say used to. We're just on a bit of a hiatus, but we run pop culture brews, where we would take pop culture, like movies, books, anything, and we would brew a beer for it. And so, nice. Like, a couple of examples would be, like Weekend at Bernie's, we made a Mai Tai rye beer. For Spinal Tap, we made an 11% stout. Those kind of things. It was really fun and silly.
Did the drummer explode?
You felt like it after you drank a couple of those. It was a wonderful beer, and I put that on nitro, so it was like extra dangerous. And then so I got really sick at the beginning of this year. Like, I don't know if it was COVID or what, but it was just awful, knocked me out. And I was just really thinking about what I really wanted to talk to people about on podcasts and things. And because brewing a beer for every episode, I'm sure you can appreciate, gets very tiring and very like stressful. And so I wanted to kind of remove that. And so I just realized I wanted to talk about homebrewing with homebrewers.
There you go.
And so really the conceit is um, we're in a mystical pub where every beer on tap is a beer made by a homebrewer. And each episode we just sit and talk about everyone's approaches to homebrewing. And what's been wonderful is I haven't had any repeated stories of people's approaches, how they formulate recipes.
Nice.
I think I told you you were the first person to bring up cleaning and sanitizing. The common through thread is a lot of people don't like hazy New England IPAs. I have one defender.
I wonder why.
And then we just talk about the beer that they're adding to the tap list. So we've had some really great beers added. Julia Haas of the AHA, I want to say, added Cherry Chica Stout, which she just put out on the AHA.
I saw that. It looks good.
It looks really good. Speaking of extract beers, I was surprised when I saw it as extract. And we also talk about the worst beer you've ever brewed, because I think that's equally as important as your house beer. And then what I love to end the show on is like, what would be your perfect brew pub? Like, what would it be called? What would the vibe be? And yeah, it's just really, it's a really informal, kind of like this, but just like a very informal chat about homebrewing.
All right, so we're gonna take a riff on your show.
Okay.
So tell us about your ideal pub if you could make it. The beer that you've screwed up on. The beer that you really love to make and make repeatedly.
Okay.
And any potential crazy projects coming down the line.
Okay. Oh, we're going in reverse. I like that. So my brew pub would be a brewery bookshop.
Oh, cool.
It's one thing I've always wanted to open, is even if it wasn't a brewery, like I went the bottle shop route, but it would be a place where people could come, sit, read, chat, have a beer, have a coffee. I wouldn't want it to, I'd want it to feel like a cross between like a bar and a pub, without necessarily the focus being you've got to come and have a beer there. I would like you to, but if you just want to come and have a Coke and read, do that too. But weirdly, I'd probably call it Sleeping Fish, because that's the name of my home brewery, which is a Godfather reference of Luca Brasi sleeps with the
Sleeping
fishes,
with the fishes. Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, that, and we would have vinyl playing all day. There wouldn't be any screens in the place, because other than in the UK, other than big sporting events like the World Cup and the Major League Football, you don't really have screens in pubs. You're there to really like chat and connect with people, whereas you come here, depending on the bar, I don't want to like paint them all with the same brush. You're just inundated with screens everywhere. So I like that idea of getting away from screens.
Yeah.
Worst beer, I'm gonna try and think of a different beer, because I've talked about it a couple of times on the Homebrew Pub. I made, this is one of my early experiments, and it was a 1 gallon, and it was a jalapeno beer.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know why. Living in Colorado, you have to love green chili, and then other states will tell you your green chili sucks, but Colorado green chili is amazing. And a flavor that I wasn't really accustomed to in the UK, so I really just dove into it. I was like, I'm gonna make a jalapeno beer, and it was revolting. I used way too much jalapeno for a 1 gallon batch. And very hot and just unpleasant. Like, you couldn't taste the beer.
Did you call it Feel It Twice?
I called it punishment, because I made myself. Fortunately, 1 gallon batches, you get 12 bottles.
You didn't make yourself drink all 12 bottles, did you?
I did.
Oh, you sick bastard.
I know. Well, so I think it's the episode with Denny Kahn. He has this thing of like, life's too short to drink crap beer. Like, why would you drink that, you idiot? And
exactly.
I was like, yeah, I know that now, But at the time, I was like 20. God, what was I? I was like 27, and we weren't earning very much money. So I was like, well, I can't waste this beer that I made. Now I'd be like, yeah, that's just
That's
getting
gone.
dumped.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
don't. No.
Ugh.
That's
Yeah.
bad. Bad.
But then I think the beer does. So I have my house beer, which is an English mild,
Mhm.
which if you listen to the Shakespeare episode of Pop Culture Brews, that's where that was inspired by. It's an old British style mild, very biscuity,
That's one of my
light
faves.
hop. It's such a nice drink, and it's like 3.9%, something really
Mhm.
light. But the beer that made me realize that I kind of know what I'm doing and can experiment and improve is my Earl Grey American wheat.
Oh, cool.
And where I've like the evolution of it was, I started by putting tea bags in the boil. That doesn't work.
No, you got to put it in the fermenter.
Put it in the fermenter. So like soaking 20 tea bags of Earl Grey in vodka and then throwing it in the secondary, let it sit for a week. But then experimenting with the types of tea, even down experimenting with the yeast. Like I love saisons.
Mhm.
My wife doesn't like saisons.
Don't blame her.
It's one of those flavors. To me, it's a lot like dark beers. Like you can find like
Oh
the couple
yeah.
you like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
you're
no,
talking.
I
You're
get it.
talking. You're talking to my wheelhouse.
But like, and I think saisons are the same way. Like, you can go too far with saisons.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But what I discovered, the best yeast to use with it is California lager yeast fermented at ale temperature.
So you're basically making a lagered ale.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically making a steam beer
Yeah.
with an American wheat grist and a bunch of Earl Grey thrown into it.
That's not bad. That sounds pretty cool, man.
It's fun. Yeah, and so that I did that for the Hitchhiker's Guide episode for Pop Culture Brews. If anyone visits that podcast, there's like 60 plus recipes you can just steal from the show notes.
Well, if you want to share that one, fire it over to me and I'll put it up in the descriptions of this episode. That way people can go have a look and gander and see if they're brave enough to try it. Guys, I highly recommend you try it. I have no doubt it is a fantastic beer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the story behind that one was we were at a beer festival in Breckenridge, which if you've ever drunk at altitude, even from Denver, it hits you.
Lord, yes.
And we did the VIP pass, which meant you got 10-ounce pours, and we get the VIP tent. And in the VIP tent, Breckenridge Brewery had an Earl Grey beer. And I am led to understand that I just kept going back. And I don't know how many of those I had, but apparently I really, really enjoyed it. And and the next weekend I tried making it.
Nice.
But what's been really cool about that beer is I've had it featured in a local brew pub here. They put it on tap. Like we brewed up 20 gallons of it, I think, just for an evening. And that one's probably the one I'm most proud of.
That sounds really cool, man.
Thank you. Yeah, you can play with the tea as well. Like some people love Twining. I use a local tea brand here. So it's like there's so much to experiment with that beer, and it stands up to a lot of punishment.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm going to be adding stuff to it, I usually lean towards using fruit purees.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did my cherry lambic, I think I told you this. I think it required like almost 12 pounds of cherry puree.
Oh God.
So that was easy. About $80 worth of puree right there.
Mm-hmm.
So on that, then I just transferred the beer on top of that and just let it do its thing. And it's such a deep red. It is redonkulous.
Yeah.
But it turned out so good. But it took like 4 yeasts to make it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you're brewing with puree, because I've never actually brewed with puree. You're just like putting it in the bottom of the fermenter and racking beer on top of it.
Yep.
And is the beer fermented?
No, beer's fermenting on top of it.
Okay, so you're putting it into primary.
Yeah.
So how do you? I mean, is there a risk of infection there, or is it through the pureeing process?
So when you get the puree, because they're already like, I was getting it from a company in Florida. I searched everywhere for this stuff until I finally found it a little closer. But there's a place in Florida. The company's called Aseptic, and you can buy it in small homebrew bags or buy the like large barrel. I didn't need a barrel. Didn't need a barrel. So they come hermetically sealed. So there's nothing getting inside. That's already pasteurized, sanitized. Anything that's in it, it's already dead. So you can just pour it straight into your fermenter, rack on top of it, right out of the kettle if you want, and go from there. And then that's what I did with the lambic. But normally when I do things like, say, like my blueberry cream ale or whatever, I'll let it go for a week, and then I'll add the puree into it, and then let it do its thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, it works great.
Do you have to account for extra troop?
A little bit. I mean, when I did the lambic, just due to the fact how much puree I had to use, like the different sizes of demijohns you can get. I got the biggest one possible. So that was like, oh yeah, it's only 35 liters. I'm like, it's okay. That's what I need. And they're like, what?
Just give it to me.
Just give it to me. And they're like, what are you making? I'm making a lambic. I'm like, say no more. Yeah, we understand. So in goes the beer. And then I started off with a Belgian Saison yeast to start the fermentation. Let that go for a week. Then goes in then a Belgian sour yeast, lactobacillus, and then and this is taken about almost a month and a half to make this beer. And then down to the last 3 weeks, you put pediococcus in, and then you cap. It's for long-term souring.
Oh, okay.
You cap it like you airlock, and you just let it go until there's no more activity in that airlock. But holy crap, I thought I had a big enough vessel. It oozed through the top.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was nuts. Absolutely nuts. But it turned out really, really well.
Yeah. I always love it when I see just all that crap coming through, like the blow off tube. It's like, that is some healthy ass yeast.
So it's not my story. This is a story of the brewery I work at. We make a New England IPA called Shag and Wagon.
Classic.
It's fantastic. It's a riff on Dumb and Dumber, their van.
Yeah.
The dog van. So I won't say anymore.
Mockingbird.
There you go. And then we use a yeast from a company called Escarpment Labs, and the yeast is called Foggy London ale yeast. And I was telling you about this yeast too, that they'll rip through wort like a homebrew size, and within a day and a half, done. So crazy. When we first started making this beer with this yeast, we had like the 5-gallon bucket with the actual like the Sandy in it, the blow off tube going into it. It blew up and over the bucket, all over the floor. It was like, honestly, it was everywhere the next morning. It was brutal. But from that, we learned, okay, well, there's little things we need to do to make sure things don't go nuts. Yeah. And there was like this small minor adjustments that, like, one to how much you pitch and things like that. Because the guys were actually going, okay, we've got like this big ass, 5-gallon jug. In you go.
Yeah.
So you live and learn, especially when you're just learning how to use your commercial brewery stuff. So
yeah,
you learn to take notes and things like that. But yeah, it was all over the floor. Like, I was going in with a shovel, scooping up the trub.
Oh my God.
And putting into like buckets and dumping it down the storm drains.
Yeah.
It was
crazy.
It was brutal.
And what's the name of the yeast you use?
Foggy London.
The manufacturer.
Escarpment Laboratories.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you can get them down in Colorado.
I've not seen them. We have, obviously we get a lot of white labs. We get the Y yeast.
Yeah.
Couple of the local ones. I haven't seen them for a while, but Inland Island were here, and
Yep.
then Propagate. They're local. And Propagate are great because it's like double the amount of yeast per bottle.
So one thing I don't understand is because do you know who Sarah Flora is?
Yes.
So Sarah put out a video a while ago when she was trying to, I think, replicate a beer called La Fin du Monde, which is a like a really nice beer from Montreal. And to help reproduce the beer, she used this yeast from Escarpment Laboratory. So if they can get it out of California,
should be able to get it in Colorado.
Should be able to get it down in Colorado.
Unless she special ordered it. I mean,
possibly.
She is a big deal.
She's a big deal. She is. Yeah. It's like a lot of my stuff that I have is I got off of watching her and Brian from Short Circuit Brewers to help warp my mind around what I needed for equipment. So, I mean, it's amazing what's out there nowadays. I mean, when you look at things that from when we first started, you would never think, well, I'm going to get a stainless steel fermenter. I'm going to get a glycol chiller. You're like, I got a bucket and a glass carboy. What more do I need?
I just spent $200 on a starter kit. That's all I'll never need. It's a one-time cost. Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of the things I find about this hobby is like once you go down the rabbit hole, there's no coming back.
Yeah. Well, and I think and I don't want to be unfair, but you can tell the difference between, people like us who we get into brewing, we get the sickness. And then you get the homebrewers who might brew every summer because they think it's like a fun way to spend a weekend. And they're the guys who bring you their beer and work, and you're just like,
good try.
Good job.
Yeah.
And I as I say, I don't want to be mean or unfair, but it's like, the more you do something, the more you improve.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting to see just the vast range of difference in equipment that different brewers will have. Like a friend of mine, he's on a multi-$1,000 system. His beers are immaculate.
Really?
Yeah, he makes the most technically brilliant beers I've ever drunk. My system, including kegs and my fermenters, I mean a couple of grand, but his is multi-dollars on just the kettles and the pumps and everything. So, you can make very good beer with varying degrees of equipment. It's the amount of time you spend doing it.
So I will admit to this. I am a gadget geek, gadget whore, whatever you want to call it, obsessed. And I watch a lot of YouTube, especially when it comes to Kegland. And Key from Kegland just released their nano system, three vessel nano system, and it's set up like an actual kind of like you would see in a brew house, where you've got a platform in between the vessels. So you've got the HLT, the mash,
oh my god,
and the boil kettle with the control panel, and I was like, damn. I'm thinking to myself, how much is that going to hurt the wallet?
Yeah, but it's also like, how much beer are you drinking, and can you really drink that amount?
Don't challenge me. Don't challenge me.
Well, I mean, I will take that challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
My doctor has told me off for my liver more than once. But I mean, how many gallons is that brewing?
So you're looking at roughly so you're looking at 100 barrels, what 113.2 liters per barrel,
so 33 gallons.
Yeah,
I'm translating for us that don't do metric.
You're from the UK, you should be doing metric.
I know I should be doing metric, but I learned to brew here.
It's no excuse.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big disappointment to my family that I don't know metric.
So what are some of your favorite beers that you get from your local not your local homebrewers, but from your local breweries?
Ooh, local breweries. So my absolute, I love how you like save me from embarrassing myself from like gallons to liters. I appreciate that.
I gotta try somehow.
So there's we've got some great local breweries here. My personal favorite is Platt Brewing. They make this Madagascar cream ale, which is a vanilla cream ale on nitro, surprisingly strong, deceptively strong, because like you approach it like you're drinking like a Guinness or a Boddington's, which are low ABV.
Mm-hmm.
This is just shy of 7, and you're like knocking it back.
Nice.
Another really good one right by me is Fiction Brewing, and they make beers inspired by books. So you get some really crazy, fun things out of them.
Mm-hmm.
They make this lovely honey wheat ale, which is inspired by Winnie the Pooh, of course. And then a really great place that I recommend everyone go to is called Chaluna, where they actually are outside of a brewery here that is run and operated by a Brit and makes amazing cask ales, which is not Cold Arms, Hogshead Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
Cold Arms is also fantastic. Chaluna makes the most authentic British ale I have had outside of the United Kingdom.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Is it like open fermenters and everything, or?
No, it's the thing that gives it away is how much is carbonated. But I have this theory that a lot of British ales made in the States are hopped like British ales, like American ales. So
Yes.
the maltiness takes a back seat to hop flavor, whereas it's reversed. And it's malty, it's light, it's just such a delicious beer for like all seasons. They also make a 10% IPA that they serve in a full pint, which I didn't know it was 10% one day drinking with my in-laws. And yeah, I had to apologize for getting very, very sloppy. So
I never apologize.
Fortunately, my father-in-law was drinking them as well. So.
There you go. I mean, I've always enjoyed British beers. I mean, we have a brewery here that's maybe about 45 minutes away from where I live, and they do open fermenters, like traditional brewing styles from the UK. They use, believe it or not, they use ringwood for their yeast. So if anything gets in there, it's dead.
It's in there.
it's dead. Yeah. And it's been great. And then I actually made friends with the guys at Brewdog in Scotland. And I came back and I was looking at trying to reproduce one of their beers, whatever else. And my boss comes up to me and says, I'm not brewing at home anymore because I've got this big play set here. Do you want this? And he hands me the Brewdog recipe book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does a bear shit in the woods? Of course I want this.
Give this to me.
Give it. I said, well, do you want, I'll give you something. He says, no, just take care of it, enjoy it, use it. So right now it's like every time I open it up and I'm like, do I actually try and make this beer or do I take the chance of making it and bastardizing it? There's like two styles of beer that, not styles, I guess two regions of beers that I totally enjoy, the UK and Germany. Those are the beers that I tend to gravitate to the most. And that's me. I mean, I think everyone has their own region in the world where they like where the beer comes from, be it Trappist, be it Belgian ale, be it a Pilsner from a Czech Pilsner or German or Italian, whatever. Everyone has that one beer. And I hope to God people aren't saying Coors Light and Budweiser. Because then I just got to say, just get a glass of water and get it over with.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're technically perfect, but they're full of crap. And
yeah, because I mean, I'm from Coors country. But you know, to your point about people loving a region of beer, I can't tell you how spoiled I am. growing up or not growing up, but living in my favorite region of beer. As much as I love like British ales and always want to have a good one on tap, and Germany, obviously, I am not the hophead I used to be, but I think as the beer industry in Colorado has grown, people have gotten braver. The lagers we're producing right now, which is obviously the big trend that is coming up. There's a brewery here called Upslope Brewing.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I want to say they're just outside of Boulder. Fantastic beers, but their lager is mine and my wife's favorite lager. And we got talking to one of the brewers there one day, and they were like, "Yeah, we always score really low in competitions with it." We're like, "Why did Budweiser win the lager at GABF and you didn't?" He's like, "Because we're not to style. Like, it is a lager by definition, but it's not to style." And I love breweries breaking styles. That's partly why, because I didn't like a lot of lagers for a long time because my mind went back to Stella Artois and Grolsch and 1664, my childhood. And so drinking that one, and now a lot of breweries, there's one here, Cool to Arms, their lagers are phenomenal. Like, I will go through, I won't have their IP, I'll drink all of their lagers. And we got Bierstadt here that has a 5-minute pour pills, which is just phenomenal. And that's probably completely to style and contradicting what I'm saying, but like, that's the exception that proves the rule, that as all these breweries are breaking rules, tweaking, bastardizing, it's just such a great scene.
Yeah. I mean, where I am at right now, we have roughly about between 45 and 50 craft breweries in our region.
Yeah.
And it's like phenomenal. Like, what do I feel like today? I feel like getting some German beers, and I got 2 really great German brewers close by. And
nice.
it's like, well, do I feel like going out the car? But yeah, let's go down and see the guys down at Ashton Brewing Company and pick up some ESB and everything else. I mean, whenever I go to the UK, or when I go visit my friends in Scotland, I should say.
Well, you can say UK for Scotland.
Okay. So when I go to,
you can't say England for Scotland.
No.
They get upset.
No. If you want to live, you don't say that.
Yeah.
So when I go to the UK and I see my friends down in Edinburgh or Ely or in St. Andrews, the beer I always tend to gravitate to is Belhaven's Best.
I'm not sure I've had that.
Do you remember a beer called Caledonian Best?
Yes, I do.
It's been rebranded as Belhaven's Best.
Ah, okay.
Because Belhaven bought Caledonian.
Gotcha.
So I always tend to gravitate towards that one because it's like, I can't get it here.
Yeah.
For some reason. I can get Belhaven Stout and things like that, but I can't get Best. So that is the one beer like I've tried to recreate. I can never get it close. Never.
I wonder, because I don't know the water profile up there, but I'm just wondering if it's their best. I wonder if it just doesn't travel.
I think part of it is water profiles, because I know when I did what was it, a Bass clone, I had to use Burton water salts.
Yep.
And I had to do that because it's Burton on Trent, whatever else, freaking water.
It's very hard.
Oh God. It's like I have there's a series of books where they go hops, malt, water, and yeast. Yep. The only book I don't have is water.
Yeah.
Why? I'm not that smart.
No, and it's so annoying because I'm the same way. And again, I'm lucky. Other than the Camden tablets, I don't have to do much to my water here. Like, Denver has very good water.
Yeah.
It's why we make all the beer. But
okay.
But it's the most important ingredient, and the one I would argue that most of us are most ignorant about.
Yes, absolutely.
And I flicked through that book. It's no joke.
Oh God. I borrowed it from a friend, and I was like, oh my God, I got through the first 5 pages like I have a migraine.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't. I mean, like, I'll go by whatever profile I have. I'll follow the profiles. If it's telling me to add stuff, I'll add it, go from there. But even at that, I like where I'm at right now, the water here in Ottawa is great. I really don't need to add anything to it.
Yeah.
That being said, going out to the country where I'm going to be on a well.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be adding a whole lot of something.
Have you read Miracle Brew by Pete Brown?
Nope.
So it's basically those 4 books you mentioned, but it's one book split into like big chapters, and it's put in layman's terms effectively.
Okay.
But he talks about going to the Bass Brewing, and there is some water there they won't let people try because it's just it hasn't like gone through everything yet, because you say it's on a well. And he sneaks up and tries it, and it's just vile. But he makes it at least readable to understand about water.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, the book I usually tend to gravitate towards, because I tend to push all that stuff aside and just go by the seat of my pants, is a book by Stan Hieronymus called Brewing Local.
I've got his hops book. I haven't had that one though.
Look at that one. It's honestly a really good book, and it talks about local ingredients that you can get to make beer, and he talks to local breweries that actually do the same thing.
Nice.
It's actually a really cool book. It's one of those things where you find that one kind of groove at that moment in time when you're making beer, and you take it for all it's worth until you're like, what do I need to change it up a little bit so I don't get bored? And that's when I start getting into my books. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And Brewing Local has been one of those things where it's actually pushed me out of my comfort zone to try different things. Like I've actually made a heather tip ale.
Nice.
Which turned out fantastic. 0 hops, all heather tips.
Nice. We made a a heather tipped wee heavy French saison.
Say that again.
A wee heavy French saison. We did it for Highlander because we thought it was hilarious. A Frenchman plays a Scotsman. And his wife's name is Heather.
So, okay, like, why?
Why? So there's a fantastic homebrewer out of the UK called Paul Crowther. He is on Twitter. He is at the Mad Brewery. He brews a lot of very nerdy beers.
Yep.
And so he and I just push one another to like just silly extremes. And he was on the Homebrew Pub. And he was like, yeah, you've come up with recipes now that scare me. And it's like, good, let's go. So, but that, I mean, I always return to this. And, you know, this is why I love talking to homebrewers on the podcast, is there's no limits. Like, if you want to brew to style, be traditional, respect the Reinheitsgebot, if that's your jam, absolutely, you're going to make some fantastic beers, and you can be really imaginative within those realms. But then how I gravitate, and I think you do too, is like, how can I go absolutely insane with this while still making it drinkable? Because I love setting myself a challenge of what's something that no one would ever make commercially, but my friends are going to ask for.
So I did that. My first go around, I made a Amarillo and Tangerine pale ale.
That could be fun.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah.
5.5 on the ABV, and around 32 on the IBU.
Nice.
And it is such a crushable summer beer.
That would be delightful.
Oh yeah. And that was one of those 4-pound bags of puree from Aseptic.
Okay. Nice. So 5.5. I was just trying to work out how you kept the ABV that low if you got like 4 pounds of like fruit sugar in there.
You gotta gear back on your grain bill.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only way to do it.
I mean, I did a couple quick calculations of like, okay, so I'll take a pound here, I take a couple ounces there because it's going to get made up for this.
Mm-hmm.
I was aiming for a 4.5. I got a 5.5.
It's fine.
It's a percentage. It's not like maple bacon donut stout where it's supposed to be like 10%. So, I mean, I admit I am a bit of a mad hatter when it comes to certain beers, but I do believe certain beers are the beers you just don't fuck with.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't mess with like Berliner Weiss, you don't mess with alt beer or Dunkels or Schwarzbiers or things like that. You just don't fuck with those.
Well, because those beers are so technical.
Not that they're technical, they're just so clean and pure.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, you got to be very on top of your game to make those well. Mm-hmm. And the moment you try and screw around with them, you're just going to ruin that batch.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to watch all of your temperatures all the time on that. You got to make sure your additions are perfect. You got to make sure that your yeast is perfectly healthy. Yeah. You got to watch your temperature during fermentation. Like, things that we don't necessarily have to worry about when like making, your smash beer or your like heavily hopped IPA. It's a different ball game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always shake my head when I hear guys go, yeah, I've got this beer. It's got like almost a 85 IBU. I'm like, why? and they answer back, why not? I'm like, good point. Touche.
There's no argument.
There's no argument. I've got no argument. But in my head, I'm like, are you wanting to suck on a pine cone? Or
see, that would be my jam.
All right.
I love a good hoppy beer. Like my father-in-law's fridge is constantly stocked with like double dry hop beers, and I just rush through those whenever you go around. I will say Colorado is still very much a hophead state, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, there's a wide variety here. I mean, between hopheads and non-hopheads and the guys in the middle, I tend to gravitate in the middle. I mean, dry hopping comes in handy when it comes to certain beers. So you want to accentuate certain profiles and things like that. Then there's times where you just like, half an ounce is all you need.
Yeah. The beer I was drinking was literally one ounce at the beginning of the boil. That's all that. Nice. I think it was, if I remember, I want to say it was Centennial. Yeah. That's the entire hop edition.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, the last time we spoke, I was working on that Guinness clone, which I just kegged. And it's like 2.5 ounces of Foggy, again, at the beginning of boil. Really? That's your entire hop edition.
Nice. So I'm just looking at the beer I just had tonight. I mean, I like I said, I haven't been able to get into my own garage and brewery to brew anything because we're trying to sell the house. And I'm looking at the can that I bought, and it's from a company called Clifford.
Okay.
And they're saying this porter is a strong beer at 5.9. In my head, I'm like, that's like, any other generic beer you can get down the road.
Yeah, that's not even average for like Colorado right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where was it brewed? Okay. It's Hamilton, Ontario. So Steeltown, okay. Yeah. That's Coors, Miller, and Budweiser Town.
So there's a podcast that I shamelessly ripped off for the Homebrew Pub in like the imaginary pub kind of vibe. It's called Moon Under the Water Pod, and it's two British comedians building the perfect fictional pub, and guests come in. But they talk about the beers they're drinking, and I have to laugh because like, mate, last night I went out and I had a beer that was a whopping 5%. I couldn't do another. I'm like, that's lunchtime beer. So, so there is still that divide between, two countries separated by language and ABV. Because, right now 7% is like, that's fine. That's average. That's not that strong.
I mean, last time I went to the UK down into St. Andrews, I brought some homebrew with me to give to some friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what's the alcohol content?" Don't ask.
Just drink it and
just
don't
drink
drive.
it. Just drink it and let me know what you think. Then I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And I gave them like the small stubby bottles, like the 355s, and they're like, "Oh, this is great. This is great." I'm like, "Okay, great. Do you want another one?" Sure. So I had brought half a case with me in my golf bag.
You're a good friend.
Oh yeah. And they're like, "This is going down real easy." Okay, don't stand up. Why? You just crushed a 10% beer twice. They're like, what? Yeah. So a lot of my beer that I make tend to be a little bit on the heavy side when it comes to alcohol.
Nice. But you're up in the Great White North. Like, you need that extra oomph of heat.
Yeah.
You need that warmth that comes from 10%.
That's when I open a bottle of bourbon. I mean, come on.
I'm trying. Yeah, I gotta say, I did go through a period of making a lot of big beers, but I've kind of swung the other way to like lower ABV because I like being able to have a few in an evening.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Still wake up. So I probably will make like this time I'll probably make like 8+% IPA or something like that. But I think gone are my days of like 11% stouts and 13% barley wines, which are a lot of fun, but I don't drink them quick enough.
Don't get me wrong. I love the big beers, and I'm trying to use my 5-gallon casks that I have as often as possible so they don't dry out. But yeah, I agree. There's only so many like 10% beers you can have. I mean, the Baltic Porter I made, my friends wiped me out of it, but 2 bottles that I kept on the side for me.
Yeah.
But I still have a boatload. I have maybe 12 bottles left of vanilla bourbon stout that I made.
Oh, nice.
And I made 10 gallons of that.
Yeah.
And I only have 12 bottles left because everybody else like, oh, can we have some?
See, I'm terrible because I split a 33-gallon barrel with 2 friends, and so we split the batches. And I know they still got like a ton of the beer that we made from last year and the beer we made for like this past set of holidays. And I just give mine out. I'm like, you like bourbon barrel aged stuff? Here you go, have a bottle or 2. So they've still got like their collections, and I'm like, yeah, I'm nearly out. Can I grab a bottle from you? It's fine.
Please. So. I'm like Indian giver. No. Sorry, no, that's totally politically incorrect to say that. I'm gonna get smacked for that later.
And rightly so.
Yeah, I should. No, there's got to be other terms for when you give a gift and you call it back. It's like whatever. It's I don't know, regifting. We'll say it's regifting.
We'll call you a regifter.
We'll call it a regifting. So what's the next big crazy project you got coming down the pipe?
Next crazy project. I don't know. Really, just honestly focusing on the Homebrew Pub. And then the next couple of beers I'm brewing are lagers. I do a lot of pressure fermenting, so those
isn't that great?
It is so great. So yeah, it's that's really it. I've just spent I just did the Guinness clone, which was literally adding soured wort back into fermented wort, which is like very scary. So I've just got that kegged. So we'll see how that turns out. But right now it's really just making sure I can reach out and talk to some really cool homebrewers and have people at the pub.
Awesome. So send me your recipe for what we were talking about, and I'll put that in the description. Guys, if you get a chance, please go and listen to the Homebrew Pub podcast. You will not be disappointed. Andrew is a great guy. Honestly, the one I enjoyed the most was the one you did with Denny.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
He's hilarious. And if you can, reach out to Stan Hieronymus. He'll come on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I've had Stan on my show.
Oh, nice. I'll do that.
Reach out to Stan. He'll definitely be on. And cool, so guys, go check out Andrew's show. It's a great time. A lot of cool people on it. And come on back. I hope to have you back sometime. We can just do another riff and just shoot the shit like we're doing tonight, pretty much.
Yeah, that'd be
And,
awesome.
and then it was a good time. So, guys, thanks a lot for coming out for a beer or two and along the way. I'm Dan. He's Andrew.
Hello.
And we'll both see you on the other side. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers.